At the Loop Pro, we strip away the complexity from healthcare failures and get straight to the core lessons and recommendations that matter most. Each weekly episode gives you the essential information to help reduce harm, critical insights you can use, share, and apply. Let's jump into this week's episode, where we're talking about a 60-second handover change that could have saved this patient's life. And please, if you feel this information could help someone else, share it. Together, we can save lives and reduce harm.
You're a healthcare professional and you're looking after a patient just after a colonoscopy. Seems pretty routine, right? But then suddenly, a bowel perforation occurs. It's a known complication, but still pretty serious. And what happens next? Well, that's really important, and that's why we are taking a look at this patient safety case study today.
It really shows how important post-procedure monitoring and handover practices are. You know, what I find interesting about this case is it doesn't actually focus on the perforation itself. It's more about what happened afterwards. And it gives us, as healthcare professionals and providers, some really good insights into how we can learn from these situations and improve patient care.
Okay, so let's get into the specifics of this case. So we have a patient who had a colonoscopy and it seemed routine, but then it led to a bowel perforation.
Yes, that's right. And even though perforations are a known complication, the real learning part here is figuring out what happened after the complication happened.
Yes. So this investigation points to some pretty big gaps with the handover process. You know, between the clinicians, it seems like some really important info about the patient's condition and the potential for complications. Well, it wasn't communicated very well between them.
You know, it's like clear communication. It's like the foundation of a house, right? If the foundation is shaky, the whole house is at risk. And in this case, because they didn't communicate properly about the patient's heart rate and other vital signs, well, it created a risky situation.
Yeah, definitely. It's like a wake-up call. Even tiny details can have big consequences. And that's not even all of it, right? There were problems with using the medical early warning system, or Muse in this case.
Yeah. I mean, it's great to have tools like Muse available, but that's only part of the solution. This study showed that even though the team had access to Muse, they weren't using it all the time to track the patient's vitals. And because of that, they might have missed some warning signs, which could have delayed important interventions.
So it's not enough to just have these systems. We need to actually use them every day and make sure they're working properly.
I completely agree. And this leads us to another crucial thing that the case study brings up: the level of care the patient received.
Yes. The study makes you think, was the general ward really the right place for someone with a bowel perforation, especially when you consider how quickly their condition could get worse, and the fact that they needed close monitoring?
Yes, that's right. And it makes you wonder if a higher level of care, like maybe a step-down unit or even the ICU, would have been better from the beginning. This case really shows that we need clear guidelines and protocols to decide the right level of care, based on how the patient's doing and what complications could happen.
It definitely seems like this case study has some pretty straightforward lessons for all of us in healthcare, especially when we're trying to make sure this doesn't happen again.
Yeah, for sure. This case really stresses how important it is to have standardized and strong handover procedures. We can't just rely on casual chats anymore. We need structured ways to communicate, so we minimize the risk of crucial info getting lost or mixed up, during shift changes or when we transfer care.
So you're talking about things like using standardized forms, checklists, having specific times for handovers, and building a culture where everyone knows clear communication is crucial.
Yes, that's right. It's like building a safety net. These structured methods make sure everyone's on the same page, and that important info doesn't fall through the cracks. It's about setting up a system that helps everyone communicate effectively, even when things get crazy busy or stressful.
And what about not using tools like Muse enough? This case really shows we need to do more than just have these systems around.
I completely agree. It's like, you don't just install a smoke detector and call it a day. You got to make sure it works and that everyone knows what to do if it goes off. So same thing here. We need to make Muse part of our routine. We need to train people properly and emphasize how valuable it is, for catching patient deterioration early. We got to make Muse a reflex, not something we only think about later.
And lastly, this case is a big reminder that we need to constantly look at and adjust our protocols for when we escalate care. Are criteria clear? Can everyone on the team easily access them? Do they really reflect how fast things can go downhill in cases like bowel perforations?
So it's not just about what one person did or didn't do. It's about looking at the whole system and making sure it keeps patients safe.
Yeah, that's a really good way to put it. It's about creating an environment where everyone's paying attention, where we communicate openly, and we're all committed to giving our patients the best possible care. And that starts with recognising where our systems might be weak and taking steps to fix those weaknesses before something happens.
This investigation, while unfortunate, it gives us a good chance to think and improve. It shows how everything in healthcare is connected, and it reminds us that even small mistakes can have big consequences.
Yeah, it really shows how important it is to look at everything, like communication, monitoring, and making sure we escalate care when we need to. It's got to all work together smoothly.
Absolutely, I completely agree. This case really amplifies the point that even with procedures that seem routine, things can go wrong. And whether we can respond effectively or not really depends on having strong systems in place.
So what does all this mean for our listeners out there? Are there actions and takeaways?
Well, I think this case study is a great opportunity for everyone to reflect. It makes us ask ourselves some important questions, like how can I apply what I've learned to my own work? Am I using tools like Muse as much as I should? Are the handover procedures where I work really complete and reliable? Do I feel confident that I can spot when someone needs a higher level of care and that I can advocate for my patients to get that care?
It's a call to action, really. Look at what you're doing, figure out what you can improve, and ultimately help create a safer environment for everyone.
Yes, that's right. This case might have specific details, but it touches on bigger themes that are relevant everywhere in healthcare. It reminds us to always be paying attention, to talk to each other openly, and to be committed to our patients' well-being.
This has been a bit of a look at how even small slip-ups can have a big impact on patient outcomes, but it's also been inspiring in a way. It's a reminder that we need to always be improving and never stop being dedicated to patient safety.
I agree. When we learn from cases like this one, when we're open about talking about where we might be vulnerable, and when we proactively try to find solutions, that's how we build a healthcare system that's not only effective, but truly safe for every patient.
That's a really great point to end on. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive, everyone. Until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep striving to be the best you can be in everything you do. For more in-depth information on this reportable event, check out the link in the description for the original article on our website. There you'll also find loads more resources to support patient safety. Remember, by staying informed, you could save a life. So if you can please share this with someone who could benefit, you're helping us make a difference. See you next week.